Did you ever think a driver's future in Formula One could turn so uncertain over a single weekend? That's exactly where Yuki Tsunoda finds himself. Despite words of encouragement from key Red Bull figures like Helmut Marko and Christian Horner, the Japanese driver's current performance is raising serious doubts. In the recent qualifying round at Barcelona, Yuki didn't just fall behind. He finished at the very bottom. And it wasn't due to any external factors. No rain, no yellow flags, no blocked laps. It was raw pace, or the lack of it, for a team chasing constructors' points and aiming to stay ahead in one of the most competitive seasons yet. A P20 finish is more than just disappointing. It's damaging. Red Bull can't afford to have a second driver dragging them down. This performance puts Tsunoda under the microscope. And now the question everyone is quietly asking. Is Yuki's time almost up? And if it is, who steps in next? Would another young driver really be better off sitting beside Verstappen under the pressure cooker environment that Red Bull has become for its second seat? Let's be honest, Tsunoda's run at Racing Bulls, which was meant to be a step up, is starting to look more like a warning for others. Especially for those dreaming of that seat next to Max. Barcelona was more than just a bad day. It was a performance that made people stop and question, how did it get this bad? The moment the checkered flag dropped, heads began to turn and questions started flying. Yuki didn't have a messy lap. There was no obvious mistake. It was just plain slow. A clean, uneventful lap, and still last. That doesn't happen at this level without serious problems. For anyone who's followed Formula One even briefly, you know this. Red Bull doesn't wait long to make decisions. Lawson only needed 2 below-average races before he was sent back to the junior team. And when you compare that to Tsunoda's recent form, you begin to wonder, why is he still in that seat? Sure, the crash at Imola bought him a bit of patience, maybe even sympathy, but that goodwill only lasts so long, especially in a sport that moves at 300 kilometers per hour. Tsunoda's entire weekend in Barcelona was filled with problems. And this wasn't just an outsider's observation. Christian Horner himself mentioned that the team couldn't understand why Yuki was struggling so much. They even adjusted the car to give him more downforce, hoping that might help. It didn't. Even Yuki sounded puzzled on team radio. "I'm sliding everywhere," he said, which usually means the car isn't sticking to the track, especially at the rear. That could be due to poor setup, tire issues, or even a lack of confidence. But none of those things should result in a car being that slow, especially not in a Red Bull outfit. When you see one driver aiming for pole and the other stuck at the back of the grid, it becomes difficult to defend. In F1, numbers speak louder than anything else. And right now, the numbers aren't doing Yuki any favors. He's scored just 10 points this season, and 3 of them came in the very first 2 races. Since then, it's been a slide. This wasn't supposed to be a test run. He was promoted to Racing Bulls because Red Bull believed he could deliver consistently. But it's now starting to feel like they may have overestimated his readiness. And the worst part? Everyone watching knows exactly what happens next when you fall short in that second Red Bull seat. Yuki's being measured against a standard set by Max Verstappen, which frankly isn't a fair comparison. But in this team, fairness doesn't always count. Only results do. As the situation continues to unfold, it's not just Red Bull management that's taking notice. Fans and pundits alike are beginning to question whether this so-called promotion was actually a step backwards for Tsunoda. And if that's the case, what does it say about the Red Bull system as a whole? Just look at how things are playing out in Formula 2. Arvid Lindblad is making waves, and many are beginning to connect the dots. If Red Bull is grooming their next big talent, then Tsunoda might just be keeping the seat warm until Lindblad is ready. It's not confirmed, but the writing's starting to show on the wall. Tsunoda, for his part, has admitted that something hasn't felt right in the car. Since free practice 1 in Barcelona, He's been pointing out an odd lack of grip. The team made multiple changes to the setup trying to fix it, but every tweak brought on new problems. He described it as a mess of sensations. Nothing ever settled, no step forward. Just confusion and frustration. This lack of stability has shaken his confidence, and in F1, confidence is everything. When a driver starts second-guessing themselves, every corner becomes a risk, and that's not the mindset you want going into a qualifying lap. Let's not forget, Yuki's been with the Red Bull family for 5 years now. That's more than most drivers get. He's had moments, outperforming Ricciardo, giving De Vries a run for his money, and even holding his own against Lawson at times. But when Lawson was given the nod over him for 2025, it was a clear sign that the team wasn't fully convinced. Yuki's margin for error is razor-thin now. If he doesn't start delivering, and fast, this might not just be a career setback. It could be the end of his Formula One chapter altogether. The pressure on Tsunoda has never been higher, especially given the tough role of racing alongside Max Verstappen, one of the best drivers on the grid. Max consistently pushes the car to its limits, making the competition inside the team incredibly fierce. For Tsunoda, it's not enough to simply finish races. He needs to match or at least come close to Max's pace to justify his place in the team. Up to this point in the 2025 season, Tsunoda has scored only 10 points over 8 weekends. Most of these points came early in the year when expectations were still cautiously optimistic. But recent performances have raised eyebrows, with his qualifying results showing significant gaps compared to his teammate. This inconsistency is concerning for Red Bull as they fight for the Constructors' Championship, where every point matters. The team has already invested heavily in repairs because of some of Tsunoda's incidents, which adds to the growing doubts about his long-term role. It's clear that Red Bull requires a reliable second driver capable of consistently scoring points and helping the team maintain its competitive edge. The pressure is mounting, and the spotlight is on Tsunoda to improve or risk losing his seat. In public statements, team leaders have hinted at changes if Tsunoda cannot raise his level of performance. While they have expressed patience and willingness to support him in finding confidence with the car, the message is unmistakable. Improvement is necessary. Tsunoda's future with Red Bull depends heavily on his ability to adapt quickly and deliver results that align with the team's ambitions. Meanwhile, the wider F1 community is debating whether Red Bull will continue with Tsunoda or look for fresh talent to fill the seat. Speculation about a third driver joining the team has started, fueled by the urgency for Red Bull to have 2 strong drivers who can compete at the highest level every race weekend. One of the biggest questions swirling around this situation is about potential replacements. Red Bull has a reputation for picking promising young drivers, but the second seat has been notoriously difficult to fill. Since 2018, the team hasn't had 2 drivers competing evenly side by side. After Ricciardo left, a series of drivers, Gasly, Albon, Perez, Lawson, and now Tsunoda, have all had mixed results, with none quite matching Max's pace. Gasly and Albon showed they could perform well in other teams, but within Red Bull, pressure and expectations seemed overwhelming. Perez, after his time at Red Bull, moved on and eventually retired from Formula One. Lawson and Tsunoda remain in the Red Bull system, but haven't reached the heights the team hoped for. Notably, Carlos Sainz spoke openly about the Red Bull's second seat situation. He mentioned that despite talks, he wasn't picked for various reasons, and while he respects Red Bull's choices, it's clear they are facing challenges in finding the right fit. This raises the question, does Red Bull have a plan, or are they stuck trying to make a difficult seat work? The team's boss, Christian Horner, has been candid about the situation, saying Tsunoda has the toughest job in F1, competing with a teammate like Verstappen. Yet, the pressure to perform is intense, and Horner admits they need to find a setup that Tsunoda feels confident with, something that has so far been elusive. Behind the scenes, whispers about Arvid Lindblad, the promising F2 driver, are growing louder. He's considered a potential successor if Tsunoda's struggles continue. This looming presence adds another layer of tension for Tsunoda, who knows that the seat won't remain safe if results don't improve soon. Looking ahead, the Red Bull's second driver's seat remains one of the most uncertain spots in Formula One. The team's success heavily depends on having two drivers who can consistently challenge for top positions. Max Verstappen sets a very high standard, and any teammate must deliver strong performances to keep the team competitive in the Constructors' Championship. For Yuki Tsunoda, the clock is ticking. His recent struggles have put his future with Red Bull in serious doubt. While the team has offered support and time to adapt, the window to prove himself is closing fast. If results don't improve, it's likely that Red Bull will consider other options, including promoting young talents like Arvid Lindblad. The pressure on Tsunoda is enormous, and the demands of racing alongside a multiple world champion only add to the challenge. Whether he can turn things around remains to be seen, but the reality is clear. Formula One at this level leaves little room for error or extended slumps in performance. Meanwhile, the fans and experts continue to watch closely, debating if the second Red Bull seat can ever be truly competitive, or if it's destined to remain overshadowed by Verstappen's dominance. One thing is certain: Red Bull must find the right balance to maintain its championship ambitions. What are your thoughts on this situation? Will Tsunoda bounce back, or is a new face needed? The coming races will be crucial, and only time will tell who will keep their place in this high-pressure team.